What's going on, everyone? Eric the Bearded Vet here. I'm a 100% disabled Air Force veteran who's been through the VA disability claims process myself. And after years of denials, appeals, and finally reaching that 100% permanent and total, I started this channel to share what I learned along the way. Whether it's mistakes I made, tips that could help you with your own claim, or simply just sharing my journey through the VA process, my goal is to help you avoid some of the frustrations that I went through. So, if that's something you're interested in, you're in the right place. Now, today I want to tell you about one of the most important, frustrating claims that I ever filed, and that was my sleep apnea claim. And looking back now, I can honestly say that the VA was probably right to deny me. And I'm going to say that again because you're probably thinking that I'm crazy. The VA was probably right to deny me. And someone who eventually received 50% connected rating for their sleep apnea is why I want to tell you my story. But hear me out, because understanding why they deny me completely changed how I looked at filing VA disability claims, and it may help you look at your own claim a little different. This should be easy, but when I first filed my sleep apnea, I honestly thought it was going to be one of the easiest claims I ever submitted. I had completed the sleep study. I had been officially diagnosed with obstructive sleep apnea. The VA even prescribed me and issued me a CPAP machine. So in my mind, this was just a slam dunk. And I remember thinking, how could they possibly deny this? They did. And what the decision letter showed up, I was so frustrated. I wasn't just disappointed, I was confused. Because in my mind, I had everything I needed, or at least I thought I did. And the big misunderstanding that I had, and you know what, before I go any further, let me ask you something. If the VA diagnoses you with a condition and the VA gives you treatment for that condition, wouldn't you naturally just assume that it's service connected? Because I sure did. But here's what I didn't understand back then: a diagnosis. It's not the same thing as service connection. Those two things are completely different, and they're different questions. The VA wasn't denying that I had sleep apnea. There was no argument there. The sleep study proved it. The CPAP proved it. The medical records proved it. The question the VA wasn't asking wasn't, do you have sleep apnea? The question was, can we legally connect your sleep apnea to your military service? And at that time, the answer was no. And that's the part that I completely missed. I filed a higher level review, like a lot of veterans do, and I thought that the VA had simply just made a mistake. So I filed that high level review with them. And I was convinced that another person looked at my file. They'd see what I saw: the sleep apnea, the CPAP, the diagnosis, the approved. Come on, simple. It's simple. Except that's not what happened. The higher level review came back, denied again. And honestly, that one hit even harder than the first denial. Because now I was sitting there thinking, what am I missing? I'm almost convinced myself that maybe I just wasn't going to happen. Maybe this claim wasn't winnable. Thankfully, I didn't stop there, because what I learned next changed everything. Instead of filing another appeal right away, I started doing my research. I started learning more. I spent hours researching, reading VA regulations, watching videos, trying to understand not just what the VA denied, but why they denied it. And that's when I stumbled across something I hadn't really paid attention to before: the burn pit presumptive conditions. Now, here's when my own military service came into play. I deployed to Qatar back in 2005, and like a lot of us who served over there, exposure wasn't something we really thought about at the time. Years later, those burn pit presumptive rules became incredibly important, because while researching, I realized I had chronic rhinitis, and rhinitis was a presumptive condition based on my deployment. That completely changed the direction of my claim. So I connected the dots. I filed a claim for rhinitis, not because I was trying to find a shortcut, but because someone told me to file everything under the sun. I filed it because it was legitimate. I had the symptoms, I had the deployment, and the evidence supported it. Eventually, The VA granted my service connection for rhinitis. Now here's the part that changed everything on the claim. Once rhinitis became service connected, I suddenly had something that my sleep apnea could potentially be connected to. That was something I never understood during my first two denials. I wasn't changing my diagnosis. I wasn't changing the facts. I was changing the legal path to service connection, and that's the huge difference. Once my rhinitis was service connected, I filed a supplemental claim for the sleep apnea. This time, though, I claimed it as a secondary to my already service-connected rhinitis. The VA scheduled another CMP exam, and I'll be honest, even then, I didn't know what was going to happen. After being denied twice, you start expecting bad news, but I also knew something was different this time. The claim wasn't built the same way as previous ones. Then came the day the decision letter showed up. I was hesitant, but I opened it. I started reading, and there it was, service connected at 50%. And I'll be honest, I just sat there staring at it for a minute. Not because of the percentage, not because of the compensation, but because after all the denials, after all the frustration, after wondering if I was wasting my time, it finally made sense. And it wasn't the VA believed me now. And it wasn't that the sleep apnea suddenly became worse. It was that I had finally given the VA the legal path that they needed to connect my conditions to my military service. That realization completely changed how I approach every claim after that. So if there's one thing that I hope you take away from my story, it's this. A denial doesn't always mean the connection isn't service connected. Sometimes it just means that the evidence isn't complete. Sometimes it means the theory of service connection isn't the strongest one. And sometimes, like my case, it means you haven't connected all the dots yet. That doesn't mean every denial claim should automatically be appealed. And it also doesn't mean that every veteran with rhinitis will qualify for sleep apnea as a secondary condition. Every claim depends on its own medical evidence, history, and applicable VA rules. But it doesn't mean that before you give up, it may be worth asking a different question. Not, why did the VA deny me? Instead ask, what was the VA missing that I didn't provide? That one change in thinking completely changed my journey. So, if you found this story helpful, let me know down in the comments. Have you ever had a claim denied, only to later realize there was a different path to service connection? I'd love to hear from you, your story, because I read every comment, and chances are someone else is watching could learn from your experience too. And if you're interested in following my journey to 100% and hear my stories like this and picking up tips along the way that I wish I would have known years ago, I'd really appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Remember, every veteran's claim is different, but if sharing my journey helps you on yours, then this channel has done exactly what I hoped it would do. This is Eric the Bearded Vet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.